Welcome back, Chuckle Crime Nerds. We are still covering the Kouri Richins murder trial here in Utah. This is, if you recall, this is the Utah mom of 3 young boys who wrote the sweet little picture book, probably had it ghostwritten, about grief, helping her sons get over the loss of their father. And now she's on trial for actually poisoning him. You can check out my whole Kouri Richins playlist. Today, we're going to talk about days 4, 5, and 6. You'll want to stick around. I got some interesting clips here, especially regarding Mr. Ramos. You'll want to stick around for that. Let's do it. If you're new here, I'm Annette Lyon, USA Today bestselling author of the suspense novel Just One More and a whole bunch of other things. Got a little bit of a different setting here. I'm a bit on the road. If this is clearer than usual or visually, let me know. I get blurry sometimes at home and I can't figure out why. Same hardware. I don't know what's going on. We're working with it. Now, a lot of what I'll be talking about, I'm actually not going to do totally chronological because there were witnesses across multiple days. There was foundation witnesses about cell phones on one day, but nothing else. And then suddenly we had digital evidence on another day. So I'll be doing this largely topically across the 3 days, but just know this is covering Thursday, Friday, and Monday, ending March 2nd. We began on Thursday, finishing with Chelsea Gibson's cross. She is what they call the evidence lady, and Kathy Nestor was the one cross-examining her. A couple of interesting clips I wanted to show you on that.
So just to be crystal clear, on the 13th of April, Mr. Richins' computer was not in that home or the detached garage where his office was located, correct?
I don't believe so, but it's a large home and I'm not sure who owns what.
Okay. Did you ever go back and get a warrant to search that truck that Mr. Richins drove on a regular basis?
Which truck are you referring to? The one that was in the home or outside?
The red truck.
Yeah, I believe we searched it that day.
The red truck?
I believe that's the one that was inside the garage.
Okay.
Many times where Kathy Nestor, she kind of steps in it. She thinks she knows what a witness is going to say, and then, are you sure about that? Think real hard, and she's been wrong several times. And that doesn't endear her, I don't think, to the jury, especially when she follows up and gets kind of rude about it. Not a good look, in my opinion. So here's the other one that I thought was tacky and not good a view of legal things. It just didn't work, in my opinion.
That you were not legally authorized to search the home on the day of the death pursuant to a warrant, correct?
Correct.
However, you can certainly legally search a home if someone consents and says, hey, search my home, right?
Correct.
Okay, and Ms. Richins didn't stop anyone from searching anything in that house, did she?
I
At any point?
I didn't have any interaction with her, so I'm unaware.
I mean, she didn't stop you?
Correct.
And you knew when you arrived, because you were there to help Detective Woody, you knew from the minute you got there that somebody was making allegations that she was involved in the death from the minute.
Before I finish, a couple thoughts on that. You have to actively ask permission. The fact that Kouri didn't stop them from searching, that's not any legal foundation to stand on. Cops can't do that. They can't just start searching and then stop if the homeowner tells them to stop. They have to get overt permission. And even if they get overt permission from a homeowner or whomever, that can sometimes be challenged in court if a person thinks, oh, I didn't think they were going into that room. I didn't think they were going to look here. And then it could be thrown out because, oh, you needed a search warrant. So no, investigators were looking for basic things on the scene that you could see with your eyes, things that would be easily discoverable that could be in part of the medical record, like actual prescription medications. They weren't doing a full murder investigation at this point. They had no reason to. They didn't have any probable cause. They had no warrant. So to have her say, oh, well, she didn't stop you from searching and taking pictures or taking this or that, that's a bad faith question and stance. In my opinion, again, I'm not a professional, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like basic law, and when you start listening to FBI agents and other retired law enforcement, like you start hearing things and start going, okay, this doesn't sound right.
The minute you got there, right?
Not the minute I got there, no.
How soon after you got there?
I don't recall how long it had been. I was just there to assist Detective Woody, and there were some suspicious circumstances.
And you knew that day? right?
I know there was some allegations, yes, that day.
Did you ever go to Ms. Richins and say, may I please photograph your bathroom? May I please photograph your kitchen sink? May I please have those drink cups that are in the sink? Did you ever do any of that?
No.
Okay.
So is it a good thing or a bad thing that that there was some suspicious things at the scene? She makes it sound like that was somehow nefarious to notice there's some odd things. But you'd think that good law enforcement would pay attention to that stuff in case there is a crime. They could make sure. But then is it a good thing, but she didn't do enough because she didn't ask permission to take the cups in the sink? Pick an argument. Kathy, seriously, pick an argument. That's kind of where I am at this point. After Chelsea, we had Dr. Brianna Peterson. She is a forensic toxicologist. She was on the stand for quite a while. A lot of it was just laying foundation of the basic science and how they run tests, things you can and can't tell from different bodily fluids. It was interesting because there were a lot of swings and misses on cross. With Ms. Lewis is the one who did the cross, and she kept saying, well, isn't it possible then that this, that, and the other? And Ms. Peterson would say, no, I would disagree. That's not necessarily, you can't make that conclusion. It's possible, but you can't say definitively X, Y, or Z. This is all we can say is this, that this was found in his stomach. This was not found in his blood. So among those things, there was alcohol in his stomach, but at a very small amount. That it was small enough that it could have been as a result of decomposition. So just in the stomach created after the body died. So we don't even know if he actually had that Moscow Mule and lemon drop. We don't know. It wasn't enough to get into his bloodstream. And there was no alcohol in his bloodstream. There was 15 times a toxic dose of fentanyl. And they tried to get into, well, what exactly is a lethal dose? And they said that depends on the person. For example, if you're an actual drug user, you've had this drug before, your body can build up a tolerance. It would take more to off you. If you're very sensitive, it would take less. But they said it's 15 times what is considered a toxic dose. So that was a lot. Something else they discovered in his system was, if I can get this pronounced correctly, quetiapine, also known brand name as Seroquel. It is an antipsychotic prescribed primarily, from what I can tell, a little online. I'm not a professional, not a doctor here, for schizophrenia, bipolar, and major depressive disorder. This is an antipsychotic medication, and it was Kouri's prescription, not his. Was she not taking her meds? It is a medication that can make you drowsy, so that would explain why she wanted him to take it, maybe to help make the fentanyl more effective or whatever. But if someone is bipolar or they have schizophrenia, you've got to stay on your meds to stay stable. And I know people who do. I also know people who've gone off their meds because, I'm feeling fine. I'm great. I think I don't need meds anymore. And then they crack. So I do wonder if Kouri going off meds may have contributed to this whole thing. This is absolute speculation on my part. I don't even know why she had the medication, if it was what her diagnosis was. Not a clue, but just speculation. But it would also go along with the idea, potentially, that if he didn't drink the fentanyl, if she didn't spike the drink with it, that we do know that he did have some back pain because he was in construction and had some injuries, that it's not beyond the scope of possibility that he was in pain and she would say, I have a leftover Lortab or something, and then actually gave him the fentanyl and the thiopine, telling him that there was something else. Like maybe one's an Ambien and help you sleep, and the other one is something, a Lortab or whatever. Because it does sound like he probably didn't have any alcohol to drink that night because there was so little in his stomach. We had a whole bunch of brief witnesses. A lot of it was laying the foundation, like I said, of yes, we seized this many phones, and yes, we did the proper protocols for extracting the information. And there were some witnesses that were on the stand for 35 seconds just to establish the baseline of basic information we can ask about later. Between the 3 days, we had 4 different times when the judge specifically stopped things and, outside of the presence of the jury, had an important thing to tell the gallery and or the two teams. 3 of them involved the jury. Let's just play them now.
1. Crystal clear. If any of you see a juror out in the wild, you need to turn around and walk the other way. I cannot emphasize this more heavily.
So something had to have happened for him to make that statement on day 4. I gotta wonder. This is kind of like those things where there's weird warning labels on like a toy, like a Superman cape. This does not actually allow the user to fly because someone tried it and sued the company. There's some reason he said that. Someone did something. Someone approached a juror, whether it was just a member of the public, whether it was a media person. Who knows? I have no idea, but I'm curious what happened. Here is the next one. This is a note from a juror.
2.
During an afternoon recess, a juror passed a note to one of the bailiffs that read, quote, "Judge," I'm having a little trouble with the handwriting, so bear with me here. "Are there members of the audience in the courtroom that are sketching members of the jury? Question mark. Is that allowed without consent? Question mark. It is distracting and a concern. Please advise." In response to this note, court staff confirmed that there was a member of the spectators that was in fact sketching jurors and identifying the sketches by juror number. That sketchbook was confiscated. The sketches of the jurors were removed from the sketchbook. That person has been removed as a spectator, will not be allowed back in. We cannot have anyone doing anything to identify the jurors in any way. And then the jurors were informed by a bailiff, not by me, that we responded in that way, so they do not have to speculate about whether that's continuing.
Who thought that was a good idea? Oftentimes there will be court sketch artists that will be hired, but it's to sketch the judge, it's to sketch a witness, and that's when a camera is not allowed in the room. The closest you could get to sketching a jury would just be like outlines, because you're not allowed to know who they are. They are protected. So that is disturbing. Someone was sketching the jury. No. They were destroyed. So good on you, Judge.
3.
Now this one I'm going to show you, just let's see, real quick, show you a picture first of this woman. She was a brief witness, but a potentially important one, and now might end up losing a juror. This was Ms. Crosswhite. She testified about a house that she purchased from Kouri, that she's not sure if she even met Kouri during this process. It was just a business transaction. But over the course of her brief testimony, we learned that she bought the house and was getting ready to rent it out to renters, but it was not in shape, and it was going to require thousands of dollars to get it ready to be able to be habitable. But during that time, they had the workers coming in and doing those repairs. The Kouri would have had access to this house and the keys. So I believe this is the Midway house where Carmen was hiding the drugs, and they were leaving drugs and money to be part of the whole drug selling situation.
Testified, and after we took that break, one of the jurors passed out the following note. I'll read it. I don't think this is an issue, but just letting you know. Quote, "Judge, I have met witness Molly Crosswhite professionally. She has done one transaction for a home where I work."
He went on and said, "I don't think this will be a problem, but you guys can make your arguments." The prosecution said, "We don't mind." The defense said, we would have struck this juror if we had known there was any kind of connection there. Therefore, we would request you to strike this juror. The judge said he would think about it and rule later. As far as I know, we haven't heard. I haven't watched Tuesday's trial yet, because I didn't want to confuse what happened today as I'm recording this with the 3 previous days. But those are the 3 things involving jurors. And then we had another thing involving the gallery.
4.
I just need to remind everyone in the courtroom that there can be no audible reactions to any of the evidence or any of the events in the courtroom. You just need to sit, be still, listen, no audible reactions to anything. If anyone is unable to follow this instruction on a going forward basis, I'll need you to step out, and the deputies will help you do it. Okay.
The deputies will help you do it, because we will force you to leave. You can't keep yourself together. For me, the one time that I've had a hard time controlling myself in a courtroom was when a verdict was read. And even then, you can. Of course, that's not like my verdict. It's not like my life was on the line. But people in the gallery should be able to control themselves. The next important witness. I think this witness may be the keystones of the entire state's case. I mean, everything kind of hinges on Carmen. Carmen Lauber. She was a friend of Kouri's. She worked for Kouri's aunt. I believe her aunt is Nancy, and Nancy had a house cleaning company. And then Carmen worked for that company. She cleaned Kouri's house and then also did some work for some of Kouri's properties. She's a very important witness. She made it very clear that she has a troubled past, was very open that she's testifying so that she can avoid more prison time for herself. She's been involved in drugs, doing drugs and selling drugs. They got right up out in front of all of that. I think she's credible in most places. I will say, not 100%. You have to feel for her. And she said that she started doing drugs in 6th grade. Now keep in mind, the adult brain isn't done forming until your mid to late 20s. In 6th grade, she was what, 11 or 12? Her brain was halted in maturity at a very young age. She's been in addiction since a very young age. It was very hard to hear. She did say that the one time she had been able to stay clean was during pregnancy. I'm not sure how many children she had. It sounds like she had more than one, and that she's been clean. She said 4.5 years, but then she said it was like July of 23 or something like that. Anyway, the math didn't quite line up. So I think it's been less time than she said. It sounds like she is clean for the moment and working her way through drug court. Now, they explained that drug court every state has their own version of it, I guess. But in Utah, there's like 4 or 5 phases that you go through, and it's pretty hefty requirements, everything from random urine analysis tests, she calls them UAs, to individual therapy, group therapy, all of these check-ins, all of these things that you have to do to graduate, and any misstep is going to put you back. But if you manage to complete drug court, then they will drop the charges. They do a plea in abeyance, as they say. She testified that Kouri asked her to get some drugs for a client who was investing, an investor who was in town and had some pain, back pain, something like that. And knowing that Carmen had a history of drugs and would probably know how to get some. Kouri gave her $600. Carmen didn't take any money off of it. This is just a favor for a friend. And so she got some drugs in a little baggie, said it's 15 to 20 pills, which, side note, $600 for 15 to 20 pills sounds like an awful lot. But I guess that's pretty typical. If you're addicted to drugs, you could probably do that many pills in a day or two? I mean, I have no idea, but it seems no wonder people steal and go crazy and stuff when they're addicted. That you need a lot of money to stay high. And that sounds like that was the Valentine's Day potential attempted offing of Eric. So she's on, her charges include attempted murder, and then all of these insurance fraud, all these life insurance policies, including forgery. That she opened at least one insurance policy under Eric's name and forged his signature to do so. There's also mortgage fraud, but those are going to be charged or on trial later. Carmen testified to going to see a different person to get drugs the next time. His name is Robbie Crozier. He testified later. We'll get into him in a second. I will say he is far less credible. And Robbie's the one that a few months ago we heard he had supposedly recanted, and that was going to put this huge wrench into the state's case. And oh no, what are they going to do? Now that I see his testimony, I'm like, yeah, that's not, I wouldn't say it's a nothing burger, but I don't think it's like any kind of fatal blow to the case at all. Because you basically have to say who's more credible, Carmen or Robbie. And Carmen is by miles. It was interesting that they had Ms. Lewis do the cross from the defense because she used to work in drug court. So she knows the system. So it made sense that she would be the one who would know how it works, know what questions to ask, that kind of thing. They needed to poke holes in her credibility. That's their job as defense lawyers, and I get that. But when you're dealing with a woman who is a mother and who's been struggling to get clean, who has a learning disability, which we'll get to in a second, you come across as pretty heartless and mean if you don't handle a witness like that well. In my opinion, Ms. Lewis should have been a little more careful with just simply poking holes in credibility and not being insulting. That did not help the defense at all. Let's show some of that. Ms. Lewis is claiming that Carmen basically told the cops, just write up whatever and I'll sign it. I need the blueprint of what my statement should be from you. So she said, read this whole thing. Oh, and she also brought almost 1,000 pages of binders that included all of these hours and hours of her interviews, which Carmen that's overwhelming to like, oh, you have these transcripts of things that I said, and you have to then trust Ms. Lewis that these binders are what they say they are, and they read through a ton of them. So keep some of that in mind. This is somewhat messed up in my opinion.
Okay, correct.
You need a blueprint, lay it out for me. Correct?
It just says a blueprint, yes.
All right. And then you said, I'll do whatever, because you struggled really hard to get where it is, I'll do whatever it takes. Correct? That's not on that page. I'm asking if you remember that.
Sorry, yes.
It's fine. Okay, you did tell them that.
So here she is looking at the page, trying to find where it says it. She has a very low education. She doesn't read well. So think of that in terms of almost 1,000 pages sitting in front of her. Okay, read this, now read this, now read this. And she has a learning disability, started doing drugs when she was 12 years old, and probably can't read very well.
And so they say, all right, that's great. We'll go to the prosecutor and we'll try and hammer out a deal for you, correct?
Correct.
Now, do you recall, and if you don't, you can turn to page 69, that during that meeting, Detective O'Driscoll asked you to write down everything that you could remember for your next meeting, to help out with the next meeting. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you ever do that? Did you write that out?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so why do you think she didn't write it all out? Is it because she's just an irresponsible addict? I don't think so. It's because she has a learning disability and doesn't write well. She doesn't know how to read and write well. So she told them, look, I'm happy to help. I can't write this statement. If you guys will write it, I'll sign it. But write what I told you, is what it sounds like to me. Ms. Lewis actually got a little more pointed about the learning disability. And I think it's going to really hurt the defense.
Yes.
Can you share what that is?
No. No.
I would ask you to share what it is. That was a question, not a request. Sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, she's like apologizing for saying that's not a request. That's a question you have to answer. What's your learning disability?
But it could be relevant.
Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lauber, if you would please answer the question.
Yes, I do have one.
And what
What is it?
It's not the highest education it's a low grade education.
is that? Because you struggled in school because of your learning disability?
Yes.
All right.
So you can see her getting emotional. She's playing with the tissue here. And on top of that, the fact that she can't even vocalize what the disability is, just that she has a low grade education, as she puts it, because of the disability. And now I'm wondering, does she even know the actual diagnosis? Or is she too embarrassed to say what it is? I have no idea, but I feel like they're just poking a wound here.
It's nothing to be embarrassed about. A lot of people have that.
Right.
All right, so you go to Susan. Did you ask her for Roxy's, or did she tell you she could get Roxy's?
That's what she told me she could get.
Roxy's. And what are Roxy's?
Like a hydrocodone pill.
Are they, and I'm asking, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Do you need you've got some water there?
Ms. Lewis, would you pause for one moment? I apologize for interrupting. Carmen, when you dab your eyes, which you're allowed to do, you also cover your mouth.
Sorry.
Which blocks the sound. If you would just answer the last question again, and if you need Ms. Lewis to
Yeah,
restate
what
it,
was the
that's
question
okay.
again?
I'm not sure. So you said that Susan brought up the word Roxy's, not you?
She told me that's what she could get from her friend.
Okay, and what are Roxy's?
It is a pain pill.
Is it
an opiate.
oxy? I'm sorry, say that again.
It is a pain pill. It's an opiate.
It's not bad. Is it oxycodone?
Yes.
What are Roxy 30s? Do you need a break?
Just for a sec.
Your Honor, we've been at this since about 12:30.
Yeah. Ms. Lewis, any objection to a short restroom break?
No,
This
no,
witness,
no.
of course, will not confer with anyone during the break.
That's fine.
Folks, please rise for the jury.
They made her cry, guys. Ms. Lewis made her cry. Making her cry on the stand because she doesn't have a good education and can't read. Not a good look. Just throwing that out there. But that's really going to, I think, come back to bite them. All of the times, Ms. Lewis even said, hey, read this, page this, turn to that, read that. She might have been faking it, going, yeah, that's what it says. And she wouldn't even know because she can't read. Because people who are illiterate, they hide it. They mask it because it's embarrassing, and they learn to function and cope and look like they know what they're doing. My heart just ached for her. Something else that she explained is that there were 4 transactions. Early on, she said there were 3, 1 with Nancy and then 3 with Robbie. And the last one with Robbie was after Eric died. People have wondered, why would she do that after he's dead? I'm thinking if she's feeling guilty, here's my opinion. I don't think Kouri is innocent. I think she did it, but I also think she's not a sociopath. So I think she feels guilt and shame and all that. So maybe she was trying to do drugs to numb herself up a bit. Maybe. That's my guess as to why she would have bought drugs after his death. The 4th one is very much under contention. And they keep trying to poke holes in that from the defense, saying it didn't happen. But later on, we see cell phone data that shows, yes, there was one more time where she met up with Robbie at the gas station. And that the only time she ever went to that gas station, line up when he was there too, getting drugs. See some of that. Mrs. Lewis is trying to basically say, you were just high.
In here, it's accurate.
Yes.
So it's in here, it's accurate. How does Carmen know? Almost 1,000 pages. She hasn't read it and she can't read it.
Remember purchasing drugs, all these text messages, you were high.
I'm sorry, what was that? Sorry.
This whole period of time that you just testified, that you say you remember all these texts and you remember all this information from March of 2022, you were high that whole time, February, March 22.
Not the whole time, no.
You were using very regularly.
I guess, well, yes.
Okay.
That's just rude. Now this is the one that just set me over the edge.
And you lied about it.
Yes.
All right.
That's what addicts do when you're using.
That's true. Addicts lie. That's true. Addicts lie. All right.
Active addicts.
I was so mad. Yep, addicts lie. And then Carmen's trying to get clean. She says, yeah, addicts lie when they're using. And this is, oh, yes, addicts lie. And I'm sure she said that to try to tell the jury, you can't trust her, but it just made her look like a jerk, in my opinion. This was, the judge had to chime in on this
The
one.
third one.
You think it was the
I
third
think
one?
I do believe so, yes.
The third, the drug deal.
Now, the third one, which, the original third one or the new third one? Because originally you said there were only 3 transactions. 1 from Susan, 2 from Robbie. Now you're saying there's 4. 1 from Susan, 3 from Robbie. So are we talking about the original third transaction or the new third transaction?
Your Honor, objection foundation, they're the same transaction.
I think she said the transaction. She
There'd
said
be
there
the
were.
3rd one, no matter what you do.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, what?
The 3rd is the 3rd, no matter what you do.
It's the 4th that
Yeah,
was
so
added.
sustained, it's the 4th that was added.
All right, well, no, then let me reframe it.
That one made me laugh. Because it's like, oh, and then the new third one or the old third one? The third one has always been the third one. There was never any other new third one. The only one in question is whether there was a 4th. 1, 2, 3, the same dates. Okay, so I wanted to show some pictures of maps to show how some of this works. Because if you're not familiar with Utah and how the roads in the cities work, this may be helpful. Just kind of a quick little primer on some of this. This is the area of Utah that we're looking at. Okay, so up in the top, you can see there's a little corner of the Great Salt Lake. There's Salt Lake City itself. And there's, you see, I did the topographical so you can see how many mountains are in the middle of things. Okay, so the blue is Salt Lake City and then Park City. Many people know Park City because that's largely where the Sundance Film Festival used to be held. As you can see, you can take the freeway. There's I-80 that can go from Park City up north. You can go up and around to Salt Lake City, but there's mountains in the way. You can't just do a quick little jaunt over from east to west. So you can see I've marked Camas, which is where Kouri lived, and then Heber City. So Heber is the next largest city. Camas is very rural. I believe that's also where Ballerina Farm Lady lives. Heber City it's not a huge town, but it's got a Walmart. It's big enough for that. And so from Heber, you can drive down a highway there through Provo Canyon. At one point, Carmen called. She said going through the canyon, and then when she said Orem County. It's actually Utah County. Orem is just one of the main cities in it. It's right next to Provo. Orem is where Charlie Kirk died. So it's part of Utah County, not Orem County. So Draper is where Carmen then met Robbie for the 3 drug deals. Here are the roads then as you would drive it. So that I marked where the mountains are. So you have to go around the mountains unless there's a nice canyon there. So she would have gone from Camas to Heber and then down to Provo, and then from Provo up I-15 to Draper. Provo up to Heber is probably half an hour drive or so. And so this whole thing would have taken her probably an hour each way, roughly, give or take. But that's the basic topography that we're looking at. Now, they have also talked about Midway. I'm going to show you where Midway is, and they also talked about the reservoir. There you go, zooming in a bit so we can see the Jordanelle State Park there. There's a Jordanelle Reservoir. And then down by Heber City, there's Deer Creek Reservoir right there. And then right between the two is Midway. Midway was founded, it's a tiny little city, little town. It was founded by Swiss immigrants. So if you go there, they have Swiss days, and a lot of the buildings have Swiss architecture. Some of the Winter Olympics 2002 events were held in the Midway area. And that's where the big mansion was that the Kouri was getting ready to close on, as well as the smaller house that they had to do all the repairs on and where the drug money was being exchanged. That was in Midway. You got to get a feel for where that is. So it's past Heber a little bit on the way through Provo Canyon toward Utah County. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like in the area. Also, one other last little map I was going to show was, because some people have been curious as to Summit County. They wanted to know, because there were all kinds of appeals trying to get the case, or the trial moved to Salt Lake County because they didn't think she could get a fair trial in Summit County. They seated a jury in like a day and a half. So it wasn't too hard to find. Summit County, my really bad sketch here in the red. And then in the box is actually, you can see the exact borders of Summit County. It's a relatively large area. A lot of it is rural, but it does include things like Park City and Heber. So there are some population centers, but it also includes a whole bunch of like the Uinta Mountains that no one lives in. That's, national forests and that kind of stuff. We had a witness named Anna Isbell, who it's interesting because they brought her in as an exception to the hearsay rule because she testified to a phone call she overheard, which normally wouldn't be allowed, where her partner at the time was talking to Kouri, I believe, and they were saying fentanyl. They were talking about fentanyl. Now, her partner, his name was Hayden Jeffs. He died recently, a year or two ago, I believe, in a motorcycle accident. Now, he was a handyman who did work for Kouri. I don't know if it was just in her house or in her real estate properties as well. But his phone is one of the ones that was seized by police and extracted. We haven't gotten to that part yet in the days 4, 5, and 6. But she was on the stand briefly, and she was really annoyed. She said the police treated her with a lot of disrespect and were giving her threats. They wanted her to come in and be interviewed several days prior to testifying. And they would even tell her which day she was supposed to be there for court. Just come every day. And like, well, people have jobs. Like, you can't just do that. That does not look good for the police and the state. So guys, don't act like that. Don't be jerks. We need to be able to convict people honestly and fairly and respectfully. So come on. Then we had Robbie Crozier. He's the drug dealer that provided the last three transactions to Carmen, although his testimony did say 2. Now, his testimony was not exactly credible. He too was saying, I'm testifying to save my own skin, just like Carmen was, but there was nothing mitigating to me that made me believe him beyond, I don't want to go back to jail. The interesting thing is the day after he testified, then the state, he kind of did contradict Carmen, as like saying, oh, it was only 2, it wasn't 3, things like that. And so the state wanted to strengthen their case, and they wanted to play an interview they done with the police did with him in an interrogation room prior to all this, and they first brought it up to him. Defense objected, judge overruled it, they allowed it to be played. And in that interview, it's very clear that he does not remember Carmen at the time. And there's like, well, we're dealing with this woman who, someone died because of drugs you provided to her. And so we could jack you up on charges. We don't want to jack you up. We're just trying to corroborate and confirm facts that we already know, which is, that's what cops say when they're trying to get information. But you could tell throughout the entire thing that he does not remember this person. He doesn't remember Carmen at all. Would have been one of who knows how many drug deals he did. And so they're like, it was 2, right? Yeah. So it was fentanyl, right? And he's like, that's the one thing he pushed back on. He goes, I don't think it was fentanyl, because people were freaked out over fentanyl back then. But his brain is so fried. To me, that's not credible. Who knows what he necessarily even knew what he was buying or not, or whatever. But almost every important statement, if not all, in that interview, all the important words were said by the cops. And he was like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So playing that interview, I think that helped a lot, and which makes sense as to why the defense would object. Later on, we had Eric Christensen on the stand. He is the retired medical examiner, and we learned about a phone call that Kouri made to his office. She apparently left a message, and he called her back, and we got to hear part of that phone call. So here's part of it. It's not the greatest visual, so we're not. Just listen.
It could be related to decomposition of the stomach contents, or it could be related to stuff he drank. But
And that's referring to the alcohol in his stomach.
either way, in the stomach contents, there's no way to know what that level means in terms of, if that was a blood level, that would be the same as a 0.28, which would be, that person would be pretty substantially intoxicated. But because it's gastric contents, you could in theory pull something out and it would be, 100% ethanol, if, depending on if they just drank a stomach full of, if they just drank a bunch of Everclear or something else. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really tell you much about how much they drank or what they drank or anything like that.
I gotcha.
In the stomach. And it's not present in his blood, so.
I gotcha. Okay. So it's not present in the blood, just the gastric or whatever.
Right.
Okay. And just the last one, what is quetiapine? Quetiapine?
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic medication. It's called Seroquel.
Okay.
It's prescribed for different things.
I gotcha. Okay. And it has like 16,000?
16,000 nanograms per milliliter. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that, quite a bit?
That's a big number, but it doesn't really mean that much. Yes, okay. A nanogram is a millionth of a gram. A gram is not very big. So even 16,000 is not a huge amount.
Okay. Is there could those have been mixed, or is that not kind of a...
Could what be mixed?
Quetiapine and the fentanyl? Or, is that a normal, drug thing? I don't know.
A couple things on that. First of all, I've seen it reported that there was a lot of the quetiapine in the system, and actually, he says, no, 16,000 nanograms per liter. He says it sounds like a big number, but it's not much. So that's incorrect if you see that elsewhere. But she's asking about the quetiapine, and she's like, she pretends she doesn't know how to pronounce it or what it is. She takes it. That's her prescription. She knows. Now, I would believe it if she were a 78-year-old getting a new prescription and didn't know what she took. My parents couldn't tell you what they all take, but she was like 35, I think, at the time. You can't tell me she didn't know what her antipsychotic medication was. That's weird to me. And she's so casual about it. Like, oh yeah, so tell me about the ethanol and the gastric and then this and that. You would never guess, based on her tone, that she's talking about her husband who just died. It's like a complete stranger. It's like, someone from a different office just asking questions, or they're just curious. Like someone doing a high school science report or something. It's just bizarre. So to me, that doesn't look good for Kouri. It's not proof, but it's one more piece of, circumstantial weight in the getting rid of reasonable doubt, in my opinion. Okay, here is one time when Ms. Lewis got really snarky, and it did not behoove her.
Bench just a minute ago that this could be used as an impeachment document.
I did not. I said specifically you cannot use it if it's not admissible, because there's no foundation for it.
Well, then we discussed it further, and you said go ahead and show it to her and ask her if she remembers it, and then the text.
That was not in the context of impeachment. That was in the context of the Mr. Bloodworth and his direct, using it to refresh a recollection of a witness who may not specifically recall the content.
I misspoke. That's what I meant. To use it to refresh her recollection.
That's what you meant.
And you ruled that would be appropriate. Well, then Mr. Bloodworth attempted to change your ruling, which happens a lot, which is what
Don't do
gets
that.
me.
Please stay
well, that's
focused.
what gets me frustrated.
Please stay focused.
I think your ruling was appropriate.
I can't even believe that she said, he tries to get you to change your ruling, and that happens a lot. When I was a kid, I wouldn't have said that to my parents. And she's saying it as an adult to a judge. Are you kidding me? Like you can see him getting annoyed. So he was getting annoyed with Mr. Ramos. He's been annoyed with Ms. Nestor. Now he's annoyed with Ms. Lewis.
That it can be used to refresh your recollection. We discussed this, you ruled, and I think your ruling should stand.
You understand that this will limit your use of this document in impeachment?
That's fine.
Okay.
Allison Wright is a friend of family. She and her husband, Cody, I think his name was, Cody and Eric knew each other like in high school, and they ended up starting a stonemasonry business together. And they used to go on vacations together. And so they bring the wife in to talk about how she and Kouri had this conversation about her troubled marriage in like 2019. Of course, the defense objects. The jury has to leave, and then they have to do a voir dire on her. And the judge eventually says, no, she can testify. But here is the argument, which is Kathy Nestor is just on one. And so disrespectful. I couldn't get over it.
Your Honor, may it please the court. According to Mrs. Wright, this conversation took place in February of 2019, 3 years prior, more than 3 years prior to Mr. Richins' death. In the interim, in between 2019 and 2022, the Richins attended marriage counseling and worked on their marriage, and a bunch of water under the bridge.
So part of English major brain wants to jump in on that and say, they went into marriage counseling, they worked on their marriage, and lots of water under the bridge. But those don't match. Lots of water, and there was lots of water under the bridge. That things were better. Like, that doesn't make sense.
This, to allow a conversation on a vacation in a situation where two women are just chatting about the condition of their marriage, 3 years, there's certainly no allegation here that Kouri Richins was planning to murder her husband 3 years in advance. Outrageously prejudicial due to the temporal distance in the statement that is being made. No relevance because it's 3 years prior.
Why isn't it relevant to show that Ms. Richins was aware of the outcome financially that would flow to her from a divorce based upon the prenuptial agreement?
She's aware.
Have I mentioned that I like this judge?
Aware of that when she signs the prenuptial agreement. They've entered the agreement that she signed.
This is, well, I mean, I think you've answered my question. It is relevant to show she's aware of it.
No, sir. The conversation in 2019 certainly isn't relevant. They have introduced a prenuptial agreement that she signed. It's clear that she knew.
I apologize for interrupting you. It's not clear because it doesn't, I have no evidence that she read it. I don't have any evidence that she understood it. Here, I have a witness saying she understood it, was aware of it, was fearful of it, was taking steps to mitigate.
Okay. If that's going to come in over my objection, certainly respect your ruling. We've made our record.
Yeah, she totally respects his ruling, huh? Yeah, totally.
But I would ask that all the rest of that conversation be stricken as too far away, about being trapped in her marriage, about being unhappy. Everything about that is utterly irrelevant and outrageously prejudicial. And we would ask that it be stricken and only be allowed to say that she discussed her prenuptial agreement, and that's it. And we also would like a continuing objection to any questions of this witness about any conversation in 2019. And we respect your ruling on that.
Okay. So defendants'
She just walks off.
objection to this series of questions of Ms. Wright is overruled.
He then explains the entire reason. That I won't have you watch the whole thing if you're welcome to. Go find it if you like. But he gives a very reasoned explanation as to why he is going to overrule the objection, why she should be allowed to testify. And she does. And here is what she says, or part of what she says.
2019. And what was that conversation? Describe for the jury what happened during that conversation.
Kouri and I were finally in a position where our husbands were no longer with us. We were just discussing life. We both have kids, our marriages, and Kouri opened up and shared that things were difficult at home. A word I remember is that she felt trapped. At this time, I learned that their marriage had a prenuptial agreement, and she explained that she felt like she was frustrated in the relationship, but also it would be difficult to leave. Eric would end up financially secure, and her the opposite. She feared what would happen in divorce. She mentioned that maybe the kids would prefer him with the lifestyle that they had, four-wheelers and toys and opportunities, where she would have less. She feared how she would be represented by him in the community. I felt for her. It was a hard conversation. I knew that things had been hard since their youngest child was born, and I was tender towards her current circumstance.
Thank you. And did that conversation give you any context to what was happening in terms of Kouri's business at that time?
Yeah, Kouri is super ambitious. She went back to school and got a master's degree. I was impressed. I had young kids. I wasn't sure I could do that. She then went and got a real estate license and was trying to build that business. That conversation kept playing in my mind as I think this is a way to become financially independent and secure.
To me, that is quite telling. And 3 years is not much, especially if she goes to school to get a master's degree, hoping to get on good financial footing and be independent. That to me just flows right into it. Now here's a point where there's an objection. I'll just so bad.
And have joint, do you share your marital money, or does he keep his business money separate?
We share our marital money.
So this is Ms. Nestor, the rude one. Crossing.
Pause for 1 second, Ms. Nestor. Go ahead, Ms. Sherman.
This is outside the scope, correct?
Sustained.
All right. Setting aside your personal financial affairs, you're very aware of C&E's financial affairs, correct? Because you do the bookkeeping.
Correct.
All right. And
Objection, Your Honor, this is still outside the scope.
no, it's not.
Yeah, please approach much.
No, it's not. When I hear her little voice, like, no, it's not. I'm like, what are you, 8 years old and a little snotty kid? Like, oh my goodness. And the judge is like, yeah. It's just, there's just times I'm like, Ms. Nestor, could you just stop already? You're really causing problems. But she's only helping the state, in my opinion. Now here we go to some of the digital evidence. Here's a wild one.
Were you asked to do that process, look at the phone downloads and the phone records for 3 phones belonging to Kouri Richins?
Yes.
1 phone belonging to Eric Richins?
Yes.
Phone belonging to Carmen Lauber?
Yes.
A phone belonging to Josh Grossman?
Yes.
And phone records related to Robert Crozier?
Yes.
7 different phones. And then we also, in the Lori had an app that allowed her to use a different phone number from that and another phone. So she was juggling a bunch of stuff. One thing she was smart enough about is that she deleted all kinds of things long enough before the cops clued in. So by the time they did seize the phones, a lot of that information had been written over and couldn't be recovered, which is highly unfortunate. Alas. Oh, and Josh Grossman there, as I mentioned, he is, or was, Kouri's boyfriend that she was having an affair with at the time. Okay, so here's the note. He was asked about Eric's phone.
Eric Richins' phone. Did you find any evidence of mass deletions on his phone?
In Eric's phone, mass deletions, no.
How would you be able to tell if somebody had made batch or mass deletions from their phone?
For that, with this.
You did the analysis for that white iPhone.
That's
Was
Kouri.
there evidence of deletions?
Yes.
Was there evidence of text message deletions?
Yes.
evidence of prologue deletions.
Yes.
Describe what time frame you were able to recognize those deletions happening.
The time frame essentially for that device is mid-March. So specifically as it relates to some of the other items I looked at related to this case, we're looking basically January 1st through middle of March 2022.
What was missing from that phone for January 2022, February 2022, and March 2022?
Hundreds of text messages at least. They were also missing most of the web history artifacts in that device.
Call histories as well?
Call logs, etc.
So that's quite telling. There are all kinds of stuff missing only from 2.5 months and only from those phones. I will say that I kind of made fun of Mr. Ramos before. He was really annoying. He was Mr. Cocky, I am Law and Order Perry Mason, Mr. Matlock. He has completely changed his tune. Like, yay, he can be taught. So good job, Mr. Ramos. I don't dislike a confident defense attorney. I mean, Alan Jackson is an amazing lawyer. He does criminal defense, and he doesn't drive me crazy. But try to be like him, not Jose Baez, like I said before. So his attitude has completely shifted. His voice has shifted. His arrogance is gone. But I do have a request now that you learn a little bit about technology and don't say stupid things. Just going to throw this one out there because there's a couple videos here that just, oh my goodness, little clips. I'm sorry, it just bothered me. The peeve.
You mentioned that these are .png files, okay?
Yes.
Now, if we look to the right, there is what appears to not be a GIF, I guess, or it is a thumbnail, but it is of a...
I know some people say GIF, but it's GIF, guys. I know there's some debate on that, and I'm sure some circles it's accepted, but I'm married to a software architect. That's way beyond engineer, and he concurs. It's GIF. It's not giraffe. It's not GIF. It's not the J. It's GIF, as in give or gift. That's what it sounds like. GIF. But also, a GIF is not a thumbnail. Those are completely different things. Some basic stuff, dude.
Of a, how would you describe it?
Oh my God!
What's the picture? What's that picture of?
I don't know, which one are we looking at?
The one on the right-hand side, it looks like a house almost in the distance.
Oh, yeah. There's a photo of a piece of property, it looks like. Yes.
A photograph, a thumbnail of a photograph is not a GIF. It's not a GIF either. And then one other goofy thing that he did that just pained me as well.
Access created, would all of those be the same date, time, down to the second?
They could be.
Could be.
Yes.
There's a lot of reasons for that.
Yes.
Okay. For example, the type of iOS I have.
OS is operating system. iOS, it's like iTunes, iPhone, iPad. Those are all Apple products. Apple ones are iOS. You mean OS, operating system. But then also check this out. Is it just me? The look on her face, she's leaning in and smiling at him. I don't know. I think she has a crush on Mr. Ramos. A little weird, but okay. Who am I to judge? I just hope there's no harassment going on in the workplace. Nothing inappropriate. That's where we are right now. I think the state's case is getting more and more solid. They're maintaining the credibility of their witnesses despite the defense trying to poke holes. The defense has poked a tiny hole here and there, but they've really shot themselves in the foot over and over again, to be mixing metaphors. I think we're going to be okay. I think Eric will get his justice. At least I really hope so. because in my opinion, she did it. I don't think she's a sociopath. I don't think she is like that, but it would track in my mind if she was on an antipsychotic and went off her meds and did things that she wouldn't normally have done, but is still guilty of them. Realized that her boys are quite a bit older now, that her oldest is now 13. And they've been without their dad for 4 years now. And that breaks my heart. And I believe that her parents are raising them. I hope the Richins' grandparents get to see them as well. But those boys have got to be so confused. We lost our dad. Our mom's away in jail. Now she's on trial for killing our dad. How much do they understand? How much have they been told? How much have they heard at school, for that matter? But I feel for those boys. Let me know what you think. Thanks for sticking around if you're still here. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps push things out so more people can find it who like this kind of thing. I appreciate it, and see you next time.